I know exactly what you're thinking. Isn't it about time that we bring to the computational biomedicine field a little bit of conversation as a service, using the bot framework to really deliver to our clinicians? I could not agree with you more. Not only me, but the people and the guests on our show today, we're going to be talking about it, how easy it is, how difficult it is, but how impactful it can be. That's this episode of Dev Radio. Hi, and welcome to the next episode of Microsoft Dev Radio. You don't need your passport for this episode. We're only going to New York, where Heather Shapiro lives, my favorite technical evangelist. Hi, Heather. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me. It's so great. My first time.
Just like me, you're an audience evangelist, always talking to developers, trying to inspire them to do something new. What are you inspiring developers to do today?
So recently I've been focusing a lot on any of our machine learning, data science-y APIs that we have, so bot framework, cognitive services, where you can do face detection, emotion recognition, going into communities, showing them how they can use these, how they can make it better, and how they can reach new audiences through their business.
Now, for 2 builds in a row, conversation as a platform has been a major topic, and the bot framework is at the heart of it all. I think it's possible that not everybody has their head wrapped around it. When you try and explain the bot framework to somebody, how do you explain it to them from far away?
So the bot framework allows you to create chatbots that are different than what you would think of when you think of Cortana or Siri or Alexa. Those are more artificial intelligence that can answer any question or most questions. When you think of a chatbot, the bot framework allows you to create a bot that will make do very specific tasks. So like Azure has a bot that you can say, turn off all of my VMs, and it goes and it turns off all of your VMs in your
Gosh, that's terrifying.
Yep. So you can
shut down my company. Hey, it works.
They demoed that at Build, actually. And so then the best part about the bot framework is that you can just write one set of code and then deploy it to all different channels. So you can do Facebook, Twilio, Skype for Business, Teams, Cortana Skills. So you don't have to change any code to actually deploy to these different mediums.
And those different channels are a big deal because it allows you to reach into places that you haven't been before. I mean, you could easily build a website, maybe a mobile app, something like that. But then in order to use your functionality, you've got to be in a website or your mobile app. And now you can do it from a million places, in Slack and in Teams, and you can just chat with it. You can put it on a website if you want to. It seems pretty endless as well. And then we introduced this cool new idea of cards that go across every possible platform. Talk to me a little bit about cards.
Yeah, so the cards allowed you, they're different per channel, so Facebook shows cards differently than Skype will show cards, and you don't have to change code to say how a card will show up. So if you think about like a URL, if you put in a URL into Facebook versus Skype, they're displayed very differently. They're displayed with different types of cards, and that's just based on the platform. And you don't actually have to do anything about that with the bot framework. You just have to say, I want to go to Facebook, I want to go to Skype, and the bot framework.
And what an unblocker it is, because development teams are like, hey, should we support that platform? We don't have time to render it properly for them. And now it's all done with these adaptive cards that come for free. You can influence them, right? If you're like, hey, the card needs to be a little bit different, you can influence it, but you don't have to. You can just say, make it look cool the way you make things look cool. Adaptive cards are definitely the way to say, more channels, the better. Just add another channel, add another platform, add another everything, and it'll look better and better. It's funny, these adaptive cards are kind of seeping into a lot of other technologies at Microsoft. Meanwhile, on this call, patiently listening to us talking about adaptive cards is Weill Cornell Medicine. Now, tell me how we met Weill Cornell Medicine, Heather.
Yep, so my manager, Steve Ramsey, actually met them at a HoloLens meetup in New York City, and he likes to always say that January 11th, we met on January 11th. I think that's the date.
It's 111? Yeah. Is that why he likes that?
He just, mainly that in just such a short amount of time, we were able to meet Alex and the Weill Cornell Medicine team. At that meetup, Steve said, "We're gonna help you out. We're gonna work together and figure out what we can do with the HoloLens bot framework." And in just such a short amount of time, we've been able to do so much together.
Nice. Now, Alex, you, a research associate in computational biomedicine there at Weill, you've been listening so patiently. Thanks for being on the show today. You're in New York as well.
Pleasure. Yes. And it's hot here as well.
And it's hot there, so just right across the street. It's still the same weather. Now tell me, introduce yourself. Who's Alex?
So in the bottom line, I'm a developer, but I also wear many hats. And the idea behind what we do is find solutions that help our multidisciplinary team, and more specifically clinicians, caregivers, pathologists, all that team deliver better care, better research, and impact people's lives. So we're the people and the behind the front line, helping the people make impact. And I'm part of a team called the Institute for Precision Medicine. And I don't know if you've ever heard what the Precision Medicine is. Essentially what it is to deliver the right treatment for the right patient at the right time. And it sounds kind of sketchy and over-promising.
No, the right treatment for the right patient at the right time. I guess my assumption is we've always been doing that. So good. I'm glad to know that's a goal now for medicine, is the right treatment for the right patient. I guess the right treatment for the wrong patient is terrible.
Yeah, anything that you change from right to wrong usually has a bad result. But what I would say is the thing that we do differently nowadays than in the past is we're using technology. We're using cutting-edge tools in order to break barriers and essentially unblock barriers that used to be in the past. So we'll use big data, we'll use machine learning, AI, we'll use technologies that Microsoft produces. And
let's talk a little bit about those barriers, because technology certainly has unlocked so many things. What were some of the bigger barriers that you see are slowly starting to be worked down?
I think one of the biggest revolutions in what we're doing is something that is about genomics and any kind of omics you want. And in the past, the cost to sequence your DNA was the amount was crazy. And now it's gone to levels that it becomes a commodity. It becomes a task that is accessible to everyone. Everyone can have their genes essentially sequenced, examined, and all this is like tons of information, terabytes of information flowing in. Essentially, our DNA is 3.2 billion letters. It's what makes us. And you essentially need supercomputers to do the work. We have thousands of computers, an army of them rallied up, crunching the numbers and helping our clinicians decide whether treatment A or B is better for them. So our main focus in the Institute is cancer, and it's dual, both research and care. And one of the examples that I can share of how this makes impact, one of the, at least the examples of what helps us wake in the morning and go to work and be excited and say, here's how I contribute. We had one patient in 2009. She was diagnosed with bladder cancer. And for the next 5 years, she would go on through standard of care, therapy. She would relapse, go back and forth, chemotherapy, all the traditional stuff.
Sure.
But in 2014, she reached at a point that she said, enough is enough. Like, I cannot go through that. And it has a significant psychological impact to any patient and family dealing with that. So her clinician, Dr. Nana, suggested trying out precision medicine. So what we did is we took one of her samples, put it down to the machines, and the data showed that the bladder cancer that she had, that specific, let's say, mutation, that spelling mistake that was wrong in her DNA, was essentially something that was mostly prevalent in breast cancer, and there was an FDA-approved drug targeting that specific mutation. So it doesn't really matter nowadays whether you have bladder cancer or breast cancer. You're focusing on the data itself. And she was treated with that 3 years for cancer-free, all the CT scans and all of that shows she's
that's
good to
great.
go. So this is one of the big willpower that drives us and say, let's work together with amazing talent. Heather, I had the privilege of working together on a week-long hackfest and brainstorm together and put our minds and say, how do we make this better, faster? How do we scale from one of the success stories to thousands? How do we make this boring that is available and you keep hearing the same story again and again?
Right.
And it's, part of like you go to the pharmacy and you get whatever, like if you have a headache. It should be a similar approach, more tailored and more precise.
So now, here you are, you realize what's going on, you get the opportunity to go to this Hackfest, and suddenly you're like, I've got to, because it's always the same, right? You go to this Hackfest, or any Hackfest is the same. You're like, and then you start daydreaming. You're like, what problem should we solve today? And you pull out of your pocket a mess of problems, and you finally pick one. Talk to us about what you finally chose to be the target for this solution.
So the beauty or challenge in medicine is you don't have to invent a problem. There's tons of stuff that you can do to help and make an impact. So one of the things that we were focusing on how we could leverage technology and how we could unblock what's the lowest hanging fruit that could make an impact today was something that we call the Precision Medicine Knowledgebase. So think of this as a data repository that all our doctors go and put all that accrued knowledge and making it available for everyone, not just the Cornell clinicians to go back and reach them. And one of the challenges that we had at that time is it's not how you can produce more data, but how can you help a person consume that information in a faster way. So clinicians are not tuned the same way that developers are. We learn different skills and develop. I could probably search the internet in a completely different setting than a clinician would. And the idea is not how well a developer can find the answer, but how a developer can empower the person making the impact, get to that result faster. So this is where we thought, like, the bot framework sounds interesting. What if we could extend the current functionality that we have, delivering results faster? Essentially, what we called it, the code name was Shortcut. Essentially slashing the time, allowing clinicians to look at more people or look deeper into the detail and focus on that. And what essentially we jumped on with Steve's team and had the opportunity of meeting Heather, Gavin, and Andy, and our team that we put together with our developers was we jumped on a week-long hackfest, and it started with what Heather called the envisioning process, or essentially brainstorming how this makes an impact, what technology is there. And before Heather started talking about bot framework, I didn't even know anything about it other than the work that she sent on the email.
Even better.
I wanted to go in a clean sheet, unbiased, and hear it, from the people that make the technology, what it could do. So we thought, what if we could have an agent, like an assistant that you could ask it to fetch information from you.
Yeah.
And instead of having a structured dialogue like the Skyscanner, only engage it when you need it. That is, tell me more about this mutation, or tell me more about this type of cancer.
Yeah, even better.
So we incorporated something that Heather knows more about it. It's called LUIS. It's Language Understanding Intelligent Service. Is the acronym right?
Yep.
I'm mastering it, right? So what this did is essentially we had a set of possible combinations that we put our clinicians and said, how would you want to search it? Let's make a real case. And the driver behind this was not to create like a demo that would be cool. We right off the bat said, we're going to build something that we plan on using, and if it's not good, we're not going to use it, and we're just going to dump the project. So the idea here is very pro delivering and making an impact other than, playing with technology and looking cool.
All right.
And just to put it into
let's
perspective, actually, there's 163 genes that PMKB supports and like 600 variants, over 400 interpretations. So there's all these different combinations of what a clinician can actually look for.
Well, Heather, where do you start? Let's say it's me. I come up to you and I'm like, I've got a gigantic knowledge base. I'd really like this to be easy to engage. Where's the starting point? There's a lot of moving pieces to do here. Where do you recommend people when they're like, okay, the first thing we need is, and what comes?
So a lot of people actually will go towards Lewis first, and I try to tell people not to, actually. So
Okay.
I will, that's just the common thing is people will put in all of their utterances that they think people will say. So utterances are just different ways that people will say something. So if I say, what is the weather like today? That should give you the same answer as if you say, tell me the weather for today.
Yeah,
so people
sure.
can say in tons of different ways. And a lot of times people will go towards natural language processing in our Lewis portal, put everything in, say, I think this is what the intents are that I want to look at. But I found that from working with tons of different customers, and then what we did with Cornell was that let's actually build out the dialogue first. Let's figure out exactly what we want the flow to be. Let's put in specific keywords. So instead of a greeting intent from natural language processing, let's just put hello. Let's just say find EGFR, which is a gene variant. I remember that one. That's
there you go.
I know. EGFR. It's only going to respond to those specific terms. So we got the flow working, made sure everything was working, and then we could add the natural language processing in.
Now, when I do start thinking about natural language processing and interacting with the Lewis portal like that, especially with a really, really large knowledge base, that could be a slow process. Is there a Lewis API that I can engage with?
Yes, so there are programmatic APIs. So Lewis is still in preview, and so the APIs are constantly updating. And so you can, we had some issues while we were working on it, but we were able to find a workaround actually. So they have all this knowledge base already in database. So we created a script that would put together all of the different forms of what we wanted, forms of utterances. We exported the Lewis app template so that we could see like, oh, here's the intents, entities, and how to format it for the JSON format. And so we just wrote a script that would create that JSON format and imported it back. And so we were able to train on like over 5,000 utterances.
Wow.
Really quickly.
Wow.
So starting small from the small and quick and dirty dialogue to the 500 utterances to 5,000, then we tested 50,000, seeing that it doesn't really make much of a difference. You've already clarified how you would want to search. It was good enough to come to the level that at least match whatever our clinicians would say. One of the things that I really liked about the framework is it's like an active project. So if one of our clinicians tries to find something and for some reason of these 5,000 utterances don't work, and there is one more that you need to add, it tells you that I tried to use that and that didn't go to a result. So you can keep on learning and going and adding. And I think this is something critical for us as we continue to enhance the knowledge base to continue to learn. It's not like a static project that how you consume information. You go there every day and there is new stuff to learn. There are new ways that you can ask it, and it all does it, and you don't have to worry about it.
Very nice. Now, Heather, this was a pretty short hackfest. You had a practical demo at the end that seemed to be working. Obviously, Alex didn't throw it away, the project, like he said he was going to if it didn't work. Everything's kind of Why is it so fast? Why is development on this sort of a framework such a quick experience?
Yep, so we worked together for 5 days. We went to the Cornell campus, and I think one of the best parts of why we got it all done so quickly, we scoped out really well beforehand. So we didn't want to get there and say, okay, this is what we want to do. Let's try to figure it out, and spent a whole day just planning. So we scoped that out before, and we were able to come in saying, these are our ideas, this is what we want to do, and we were really able to like hit the ground running that way. But the platform itself is very easy to get onboarded with, I'd say, especially with Node. Since there's two SDKs, there's one for Node and there's one for C#. And I found Node is easier to get started with.
Okay.
Because you don't have to know the nuances of C# and controllers, all things like that. But I found that Node's easier to get started with, and then there's tons and tons of samples on GitHub of
Yeah.
how to adaptive cards, how to connect to Lewis, how to do all these different things, and so you don't have to reinvent the wheel of like let me retype all the code. Here's the basis. The documentation is great to onboard someone, I think. So it's really,
and I think the popularity of the bot framework helps you be more productive as well, because you come up against a problem. There's been a dozen other people who've come up against the same problem, and lucky you, two of them have published their solution of however they got across it. And so that's pretty sweet in itself. Now, Alex, when you showed up and you were ready to do that, what was your expectation going in, and what was the reality?
So the expectation was really low because it's a brand new technology. You don't want to necessarily set the goal high and expect magic things to happen. Surprisingly, it was way above what we would expect, and to me, the ultimate, let's say, threshold is what the clinician says, if they're going to use it or not, because you can make the best piece of software unless you find a way to create the right experience, the right way for them to consume that. It's a piece of trash. And I'm saying that for my code as well. It doesn't matter unless it's a tool for them. And what Friday showed in the hackfest was that clinicians were excited and eager and were asking early access on this, and what channels and what ways could I consume that information. Now, once Heather left and the team, there was an ongoing need of how do we extend this, and this is what I call when clinicians are excited, they come with a Santa's list of what I would like to extend, and this is the point where you're reaching at a point that this could be useful, and you pay close attention on what are these requests and what is the right priority and how it impacts more people. And one of the major requests was, aside from typing it at a chat window, could I converse like Siri or Cortana or Alexa? And these were one of the things that I think the approach of the hack is, it's not right there. It could be next month. There's build coming up. Let's wait and see. And build came, Cortana came over, and right now what we're working on is essentially teaching Cortana, building that skill set to consume that bot's knowledge and making it accessible for everyone to ask and say, tell me more about this. And we're very eager to see where Microsoft, what they're going to build next and how they're going to empower us to do more stuff. One of the things that Steve and I from Heather's team have been working on is the whole vision that we have on how we could use HoloLens. And for us, this platform has been a vehicle for clinicians to see data in a completely different way, in a tangible way. So they can tap on all the back-end supercomputer power and look at the data as they're meant to be and ask questions. And one of the things that we were discussing with Heather is converging the AI bot framework, the understanding and cognitive services platform with mixed reality, in the sense of it's like having a physical assistant, and while I'm looking at the data, I say, tell me more about this, and you get that information instead of opening browser tabs or having multiple windows. You stay focused on what you're doing, and you get knowledge that otherwise would have been very difficult to achieve. And now we have more realistic and more higher expectations of what we would like to use in the technology.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's some serious aspirational usage of this new tool. Now, Heather, during the Hackfest, everything was going on. What were some of the snags that you didn't expect? Anything happen that was a little bit more of a challenge?
So, like Alex mentioned, like at Build, Cortana integration was released. Right before Build, there was like speech to text also released for different channels. So we actually met probably a month or two before Build, and so speech was only enabled in Skype. So that was a huge problem that we found because the clinicians wanted to be able to speak, and they're already doing so many things with their hands, like looking at CT scans or looking at different things. They want to be able to say, like, find me this tissue, find me this variant. So I worked on a pretty big workaround of how to get speech enabled. It would really only work locally, but it was pretty cool to see. We were able to enable socks and do a command line function that would say, if you click on this button that says record, it would record what the person said, say it as if that person said it as text, and then submit it. And we were able to get the same results. So it was pretty cool. And then a week later, they released speech. They released speech.
So you're typing into your bot, and you want it to understand whatever it is you type. And so you configure all these utterances and intents inside Lewis so that it can do all the work for you. But now I start to speak to my bot, and I get to introduce Chris, right? Now Chris is the new CRIS, and the IS is still the same, but what's the CR stand for? Just lost it.
Recognition.
Yeah. Is it custom? Well, whatever it is, right? It's Lewis's friend Chris, and it's the ability to, be able to hear that text while you're, in a loud place. You don't have to go into a closet and whisper into the microphone to get everything just perfect. Chris is able to kind of parse all that out. It's neat to see all these different technologies. Each one has their own specialty, but together they really kind of complement one another and bring together a full solution like that. I think that's pretty cool. Alex, it sounds like if they brought a Santa Claus list to you of all the things they wanted to add to it, they didn't look at it and just kind of roll their eyes. It sounds like the clinicians like this solution.
I think what was very powerful, at least for the demo, we're a multidisciplinary group, an international group that has people from France, Italy, Korea. So trying out Heather's hack or pre-built solution that anyone could ask in their native language a question and get a result back. I mean, it will always reply back in English because it was a demo and we wanted everyone else to understand it. But you can see the potential that it has. I think that the biggest benefit or power that technology like the bot has is how close to us it goes to fetch information and understand us better in order to tailor it and deliver it in the setting that we prefer, whether it is typing and like you said, I can only text, or whether it is in a setting that I just need to converse and I don't want to look at anything. I'm wearing the HoloLens and I'm just saying, just bring me more info or not that.
I just want to say. And nice work, Heather. I mean, what a cool workaround solution before Build was announcing that you could do it other ways. It's so nice when you hit a wall and instead of saying it can't be done, you just kind of make it happen anyway as well. We forget there's so many technologies out there that you don't even need to. And then you might say, oh yeah, but it'll only work with, but often it'll only work with, fits right inside your requirements anyway. And so it's a nice little way to solve a problem. Good job, Heather. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I've never used socks, so I don't know if I would say I'm a pro at it yet, but it was tricky.
I think it's cool that you're not a pro and still made it work. That's what I think. Alex, what's next? What's the big future for something like this? I mean, I realize HoloLens is a dream part of the project, but more realistically, HoloLens is that's way down there. What do you think step number 2 is going to be?
I think one of the things that we've already started is using it internally, not as a demo tool, but as a beta thing of becoming part of the things that we sign out, giving extra information. So to me, a tool becomes powerful when you have increased user adoption. So the next steps for us is broaden and cut the ribbons and make it available for everyone. We're right now in this stage that the bot is continuously learning, and it's a different threshold to have a a set of invited users in a different setting, having our pathologist say, it's okay, you can share it now with the whole world. It's not going to make us look bad. It is at the level that I feel comfortable. So that the next step is essentially making it available globally, inviting other people to use it and other people to learn, invite institutions to work together with us to we have an approach of breaking the silos and work together on this tough problems. And I don't think the HoloLens implementation is further up the road. We've already started doing a lot of stuff.
They've been doing a lot of work with the HoloLens. It's great. It's awesome. Alex actually came, we had a HoloHack earlier this week in New York City, and he came as a mentor to help developers in the community get onto the HoloLens. So they're definitely breaking grounds with that.
That's cool. Closer than we think. All right. Very nice. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe step number 2 is your HoloBot.
Looking forward.
So the project was the shortcut project. What are you going to call it? The Cornell Superbot?
That was one of the names, but
that was in the list.
So our Precision Medicine Knowledgebase, or PMKB, is essentially a portal that you could go and get all that information. And we just already published the bot. I think I put it under the name PMKB. But if anyone has a better name or anything, Superbot, right? That could work.
I'm sure some other project has stolen Superbot already. Not Cornell Superbot. You could go that route, perhaps. Precision Bot. Precision. Let's not daydream it right now, but I like the idea of coming up with names.
The vision that we see, though, is not necessarily using the bot or using it with channels like Skype. I think the most powerful part is integrating it with assistants like Cortana and making Cortana smarter, which has a much broader adoption, learn and utilize that bot's knowledge. So this essentially makes it completely easier for development like HoloLens, or whether I'm on Windows 10 or any other platform. I do use the Skype channel quite a bit. And I do see myself, instead of going to the website, typing something, because it's more natural. I can type anything. It's forgiving, and we'll find the same results. And I do see value of making, I think, one of the next steps in the whole bot and assistant thing, the proactive kind of engagement. That is, I'm looking for something, and it helps me driving my flashlight to the right direction. So my query might be kind of crude, not sure what I'm looking for, or it might be tailored, knowing the data or my patient, and say, hey, there's an article or there's a clinical trial that's perfect for what you're reading. Like, only 2 minutes of your reading time, over 1 million articles. We just brought this from you. This is where the AI comes in. With this.
That's where the dream is really realized right there. Heather, there's a developer watching this, and that developer's like, I am so ready. Where do you send developers to begin to learn about the bot framework so they can see whether or not it's the right fit for them?
So I always show them the bot framework website, so it's dev.botframework.com. But I usually always also show them different examples that we have. So there's a really fun bot called Project Murphy. I'm not sure if you played around with it, but you can ask the bot what if questions, and you can say, what if I were a Disney princess? And it'll respond, it will ask for a picture of myself.
That is weird. That's the one I ask every time. That is awesome.
I always ask that. It's my go-to. It's PC enough, and it's good. So yeah, I usually show them that first, and then point them towards the docs. I found them actually really great to get started with on the bot framework website.
Yeah, and there's something great about the bot framework in that it simplifies all these complexities, especially the Murphy project. When you think about all the stuff that all you say is, what if I were a princess? It does so much on the other side of the equation, right? And all of a sudden there's an image, and it's crazy.
Within
right?
seconds.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so then as my company, I'm starting to think about it and like, oh, wow, we have all these things. And man, if we could bring them all together. But what if we did bring them all together in some sort of easy to interact with way that's not a website, that is just a bot that talks to you in a way that is familiar feeling and almost like a friend in a lot of ways, depending on how you build the bot and how conversational you want to actually make it as well. If I'm a JavaScript Node developer, obviously there's a path for me, right? Because there's a full Node implementation of the bot framework. If I'm a Microsoft .NET developer and C# is my thing, there's a path for me as well. It's pretty nice how open it is. And then let's talk about it architecturally for a second. The bot framework, once I build it, where do I host it?
So you can actually host it anywhere you want. So it is, at the end of the day, just a web API. So you can host it as a website, just in a messaging endpoint. And then you sign into the bot framework portal with a Microsoft account. You don't even need an Azure subscription. You just need to be able to connect it to that messaging endpoint. So you really can host it anywhere, and it makes it super accessible to all different companies.
Okay, cool. You don't even need an Azure subscription. Boy, it's a crazy world we live in today, Heather. Wow. All right,
Just a
cool.
Microsoft
Very
account.
inspirational. Alex, great job. This is a cool thing. I'm excited to see kind of where it goes. I'm glad clinicians already kind of see its value. Obviously, you're a salesman and an evangelist of your own. Great work, and thanks for being on the show today.
I would say thank you, first of all, and for any developer that is looking for examples, this is what we had to do when we dived in. There's so much stuff out in GitHub. And even our project with Heather is open source. You can go and check it out. It's on Node.js. And the idea is not just learn and get a boot start, but don't reinvent the wheel. And if you have something cool to add, do a pull request and make your impact. There is so much potential with what this technology can do. And I'm looking forward to see what other people are doing and in other disciplines and take note from that and take examples and improve ours.
Yeah, I am too. Thank you, Alex. Heather, great job. Thanks for being on the show too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys again.